All right. Let's get going. So, I'm excited. We have got a guest coming on here, and this is the relaunch of CoUnity with CoUnity. We just wanted to get going, and I'm really excited to share a lot about things I've learned and different strategies and tools and frameworks, but also bring really cool guests on. And, without further ado, longtime friend, awesome builder, amazing founder, lots of insights on community and different things. We have got Kush. How are you doing, Kush?
Hey. I'm good, man. How are you doing? Long time.
Yeah, no, I'm great. Just settling in. I'm in an empty room right now in Lisbon, new apartment, which is really exciting.
Nice.
So looking forward to the base. It's been nomadic life for the last 2 to 3 years. We've bumped into each other at I don't know how many conferences and lots of great times in Costa Rica, Metacamp, good friends and folks there and everything. So yeah, would you like to start off with an introduction of yourself, and then I'll do a little bit on myself, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thanks, Dan, for inviting me and having me over. And really excited for this. First of all, the intro was like super trippy and like it was really cool. I like that. But yeah, a little bit of me. I'm Kush. I like to build stuff. Previously, I used to run this company called Samudaya. We were initially into DAO tooling, then pivoted into points infrastructure. Raised a couple of $1 million from Coinbase Ventures and Global Capital, and yeah, built that for almost 3 years. Since then, had to shut it down last year, 2024. And since then, I've been exploring a lot of AI and consumer applications. Currently, I'm working on building personal assistants, which are like privacy preserving. So, just an assistant which is there for you without exploiting any of your data. So that's basically what I'm working on right now. We're called Dubring. And yeah, that's about me.
Nice. Amazing. Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation just because of the experience you have with a variety of different things. As for myself, I'm Dan. I'm the CEO, co-founder at CoUnity. We're a community strategy agency. So I often say, we're not a marketing agency. We don't do a lot of the things with content, with KOLs, with PR, and those elements. We focus a lot on retention. And I think like community engagement and the different systems and the way that we innovate in the space, we're getting better and better and better at it. And it's a continuous game of looking at these new community tools. AI is entering like a huge curveball into how we engage with communities and how we get more effective at what we do. So yeah, it's been really exciting. And this is an element to share some of those learnings and also bring awesome people like you on and have good discussion. So being that it's very, central into the ethos of community, I'm really curious to hear, from a Web3 lens, from a founder with your different experience, how do you even define community? Because it is quite a buzzword and used a ton. Like, what would you say is a definition of community from your perspective?
I think it's like as a project grows, it's hard to define a community, but at the core of it, I think a community is just the set of people who like believe in you and your product and what you do. So these will be the people who are like more excited about your product than you are on some days, and motivate you to like do things and be better than yourself and actually go out there and ship things, because these are the one who actually want and believe in what you're trying to build and the vision that you're trying to present. I think that's at the core of it, what a community is. So yeah, small set of people in the starting of small set of people in the starting who want to engage with you, who want to interact with the vision that you are trying to bring out in the world. And that's basically, I think, what a community is at the core of it. It's all about the people who are there with you and want to be with you.
Nice. I like that. It rings true just to like a component of book I was reading recently, just talking about how honestly, like, there's the 1000 true fans kind of concept. And I think in this, day and age too, with just like bots and, elements like this in some communities, I think like a really strong 1000 person community can easily outperform like a 200,000, 300,000 person community. And we see this a lot, I feel like, in the Web3 space, with the way some projects have grown through different kind of campaigns and different ways. But I don't want to get too sidetracked into it. But overall, like, I agree with your definition there, and it makes a lot of sense. I'd be curious to know too, like, from looking at Web2 world and how things previously have evolved with kind of community in that space versus Web3. What are your thoughts kind of between the two? How do they differ? Why is community different, or why is it the same? Like, what's the comparison between the two from your perspective?
Uh, I think a lot of the times when you are building a product, a community in itself is kind of like your earliest partners in the journey, especially when you're building a consumer application, because these are the people who you're like actually building with. These are the people who are actually going out there and testing your product when it's like not good enough to like show in the public. And these are the people who actually like seen you at your worst, because the first person to try out my product is, so yeah, just a story out there. When we released like the earliest version of Dubring, the people who tried out the product, they actually texted me and said, "Bro, you forgot to update like some stuff, and it's redirecting to localhost." So yeah, these are the people who've seen me at my worst and still been there and supported us. So yeah, I think it's like a very uh, it's a very different relationship in itself, because the other person is also like not expecting anything of me, but they are expecting me to like deliver. And when I look at it from that perspective, I think now a lot of times it just translates into distribution. People are looking at it from a distribution perspective, where it's like, okay, if I'm building something, how do I get my people to like more and more? How do I get my product to get to more and more people? And how do I make sure that it's able to get some kind of viral reach on Twitter, viral reach on YouTube, or anything like that? So it comes down to distribution then. But at the core of it, it's like the people, right? And I feel this is something, when I compare Web 2 to Web 3, it's a bit different, because now in Web 3 we have all these different growth mechanisms, like points and airdrops and all of these different incentive mechanisms, which kind of like skew the boundary of it a bit. And I would say that when you try to do these growth kind of hacks in like a very early stage community, that is basically when the line gets blurred a bit. And I think that's where organic community building is a lot more prevalent in Web 2 startups than in Web 3 startups.
Interesting. There's a component there that made me think a little bit about how like network effects are often like this bridge between community and marketing, and they kind of like dip their toes on both sides, right? And network effects are just super powerful. Like, I don't remember what the exact stats were. I should remember this, but like very just recently, Cookie 3 launched their Snaps product,
Yeah.
and they distribute it initially to more kind of KOLs with larger followings, who then got the invite codes, and they could then share the invite codes to like other creators. And so it was a really cool distribution mechanism, because you kind of gave the invite links to people who had like a certain component of status and network themselves because it had large followings, and let them distribute to the creators that they chose, into their alpha Telegram groups, into their like different kind of components. And in the way that then spiraled with those people who then came on and participated, getting invite codes, and just like the network growth effect is really interesting. And it often starts, to your point, and I'd love to get into a little bit of an overview more on Dubring and what you're building as well. But like when you start with a feedback element, that's one of like the core kind of columns, I guess you could say, where community provides a lot of value, is in this feedback element, right?
Yeah.
Because product feedback helps you shape it to exactly what's going to drive revenue, right?
Yep.
And I think, like, as we know in the Web3 space, it's like funny of the memes and the videos coming out with like the VCs and like pre-revenue. It's like, oh, it's like, let me get in. It's almost better, right? But honestly, the meta, I feel like, at Token 2049 in Dubai was that a lot of projects now are like starting to have more of the lens now of looking at like revenue, right, as like a big positive indicator for projects, and sustainable to be able to grow communities. Like, let's look at things that have revenue, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that ties very closely to the whole product feedback loop, with like, if you have good product feedback loop, then someone's more likely to be, answer the question, well, I would pay for it if, blah, 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 blah. I'm really excited in your test group, and I know you're shipping different things out, but let's maybe rewind a sec and then first talk a little bit about what is it you're building, what's your vision for it, and then we can jam some more on community strategy and how it relates, and go into some of the tools and frameworks I'll share. But let's hear a little bit about Dubring.
Yeah, I mean, so Dubring started out. So at the moment, we're building out a personal assistant, and I mean, there's like tons of personal assistant out there. People are trying to build them, but my entire thesis over there is like to go in user first rather than going application first,
Mm,
where I mean, I don't want to go into like a horizontal scaling kind of strategy where I like integrate something like an email, Telegram, WhatsApp, or all these different clients into it, like right off the bat, but kind of like build this core mechanism where the assistant first understands about the user and is sold to the user. And when I say that, I mean, it's easy to build out an application which writes out a draft response for you, because you just pass the email into an LM and just ask it to like give a response, do some prompt engineering and stuff. But it becomes really difficult or different when someone else is writing an email for you who has all context about you, because now they know that, okay, Dan is going to be doing this at 2 p.m. Dan is going to be going at to the gym at 4 p.m. or something, and for that I need to make sure that this particular thing has moved out, so I need to like write an email for them. And that only happens when the LLM has like a lot of context on you. In order to have a lot of context on you, you need to share information with the LLM. And when I was looking for solutions like that, I basically went out and did some research, and I wasn't sure how my data was being used with all of these different agents out there. So that kind of led me to work on this thesis around personal agent clouds. And I was also doing this work a few months back at Mother AI, which was kind of like this agent network kind of project. So the entire idea over there was to enable some kind of a infrastructure that can be owned by anyone, with the user experience of not having to go into technical details, but have the data secure while accessing all of the different value that AI brings to the table. So that's basically kind of the vision that we're building Dubring with. And that's also one of the directions that we're going in from that perspective, that if let's say you want to build out an all-encompassing general purpose agent, that will probably not be like a single monolithic server or like a huge giant agent that can do everything. It will be more like a network of agents which can talk to each other and uh, execute your request in a very safe manner. And when you have like a bunch of these different AI agents talking to each other, the question is, how does the orchestration work, and how does your information or request get passed on to this? Now over there you have one personal agent which is yours and yours alone, which manages this stuff for you and has all the context on you. And I believe through that network of AI agents is how I believe we'll be able to like get to that general purpose AI agent which can work for the user. So I'm trying to build out that core piece, which is like that personal AI agent that works for you and houses your data in a very secure manner, and then communicates with the other AI agents to do this. So that's the piece that I'm trying to build out with Dubring.
Right. Okay. It's really cool to hear more of your grander vision because, obviously some of what I've seen too is just like you've got like a plan or a roadmap per se on what you're building with it. Because the first step of this grander vision is this component of the assistant for you on Telegram, right? But then
Yeah,
that's like the door opener in a way.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then it's going to kind of grow more into this fuller vision, right? Am I
yeah.
getting that?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to build like a lot of infrastructure right off the bat and not have anyone using the product. So I was like, okay, what's the smallest, lowest hanging fruit that I can get to, in which I can like solve a problem for anyone and also take a step towards what I want to build. And towards there, the Telegram assistant was something that really stood out because I mean, in Web3, all of us use Telegram and for basically everything, and it basically gets a lot difficult to like stay on top of things once you have, let's say, 50, 100 incoming every day, or even more than that. So that's basically what the idea was, that okay, let's start with Telegram, because Telegram also, from a technical perspective, has a lot of their APIs that you can just access if the user gives you permissions, which actually help you like take control of the Telegram and organize it for the user. And that's basically the piece that we've built out right now.
Yeah, I know like you sharing some certain elements of it just recently. I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like, different elements that I know. I feel like you hear this a lot at, every conference you go to, obviously it's like the classic, shit Web3 people say is,
Yeah,
can you give me your Telegram? What's your Telegram? You end up with just an insane amount of Telegram handles and contacts. I was in Dubai for 2 weeks and just at events from people coming up to me and exchanging contacts. There's 130 or 140 Telegram contacts, right? And then over the
yeah,
course of just following up with some of them that you were like, wanting interested to continue conversations, along with all of them, then messaging you, along with all the previous conferences. When you're going to multiple conferences, you just you get into this like sea of my Telegram is a mess, and I know a lot of people are in that like bucket. I know some people are really good at staying on top of their Telegram. Like shout out to like Blake. He's a co-founder at Myosin. Which I run community guild there as well, and they're doing awesome things. We're working on cool projects, and we're collaborating on some stuff too. But like he's got a whole system just on different folders and a strategy on how he pins certain conversations and like how he organizes it all. And I was like, ooh, I kind of want to like learn and stay on top of it like that. But I feel like Dubring does a lot of that work for you with that one kind of folder structure and whatever. So I know you're like, still shipping and pulling a lot of stuff together, but I've definitely got my eyes peeled and excited to beta test stuff. So very,
awesome.
very fun. That's very cool. But I guess tapping more into, your experience around different elements of community, what would be, one example of like a community initiative, a community campaign that you yourself experienced or that you've seen that was really effective that you'd be willing to kind of share, like a little bit of a story that you think could be useful around lessons or value or something that kind of, was something very successful around a campaign for a community. Does anything kind of come to mind when you hear that from your past?
Yeah, I mean, there's like tons of learnings from the previous company around communities itself, because I made the mistake of underestimating community when I started out. And I mean, I started as a builder, so I was like, okay, I don't need a community. I'll just like ship things and people will come.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't do that. That doesn't work. But yeah, I think just speaking with people was like really, really helpful. Not gonna lie. It seems very simple. It is time consuming and it actually requires a lot of care. Like you need to care about the person, you need to care about what you're doing in order to like have fruitful conversations around those. So I think that was like really good to like bootstrap what we were trying to do. And even with Dubring right now, we just have like a group of 20, 25 people who I'm in touch with like very personally and reach out to very frequently to like ask, okay, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And what do you think of this? What do you think of that? I think that's super important. But I think as you start to grow, and let's say now talking of bigger numbers, where let's say you have hundreds of people in the community or thousands of people in the community, uh, showing up regularly is super important because we also started this community called Bhai Kabal, which is basically a group of people who just believe in this feeling of the word Bhai, which is like a brother. So that's that shared sense of belonging that you feel that you when you're meeting a brother, and it's just about that feeling. So, I noticed over there as well, like when all of us were like really active, all of us were showing up, the community was like really, really thriving. People were like really wanting to take part in it. They were giving their feedback. They were coming up and saying that, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to contribute. I want to, just help out how possible. And, for a week or something, all of us were like out and were not able to like be there. And that's basically when we saw like a huge dip in numbers because people were trying to carry it, but till the time you don't reach that default alive kind of state, you are like regularly show up. And for like even larger communities, I think doing things that are like super relatable like helps a lot. Like for example, when we were at Samudaya and our community was like pretty decent that time, we introduced like a mascot. So we started making videos out of this cute little mascot that we had made up, and that basically got a tons of tons of engagement on social media. uh, Even the community members liked it, and that was pretty cool. I think that was something people wanted to share it because it's like a cute little mascot who was trying to get the message across. So just trying to convert the use cases into like cute little anecdotes with a mascot was super super helpful as well. So yeah,
Right.
relatable stuff.
Those are really great points. Honestly, like big core fundamentals. And, we do a lot of those elements with the clients we work with. This the first component of actually structuring how do you talk to your community members, because sometimes the even question comes up. It's like, how do I even talk about, my community, like talk to my community members? Like, how do I even open up that conversation? And different elements on how you can, like you can go as sleeves up as even just DMing people on Twitter, and adding them to special groups and giving them that kind of access to be able to get that feedback. And yeah, that's a huge kind of core concept. And then the consistency element as well, like having a certain time every week that they can understand that they can show up and learn more and start to build more of that bond. And, you think about, religion, which often you can draw parallels to some of like the best communities is really like, religion in a way. It's like religion has an amazing community with different faiths and the way that people come together, sharing what they believe, like the common unity that they have. And yeah, there's generally a specific time where these people kind of congregate, right? And when they come together and it becomes part of their routine, part of their ritual.
Yeah, the
And
rituals.
totally. And bringing that aspect deeper into different projects and helping them think about the strategy for how their, ritual goes and what are the steps that they do with that is, can help a ton. And yeah, I think that's, and then your third point, the last, most recent point, you were talking about, what was the last one you were just mentioning? It was three really good
like
ones there.
like the mascot, like the
The
mascot.
mascot.
Like
Yes.
doing things that are relatable, like the community can relate to. And of course, that actually ties back to a lot of the rituals and the values that you try to instill in the community because by extension, like a product or a company is an extension of the founder's vision and their values. So essentially, your community will also be a extension of that in some way or form because you are all united by this common theme, which you might not have even met someone, but as you mentioned, religion, right? There's these shared rituals or narratives that are being there that everyone believes in, and just getting those out there is super important.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And especially it's interesting because that's actually a core component of where we came up with the name for CoUnity is breaking down community into like the definition is a group of people with a common unity. And so there's like a shared experience that people have doing that and making it relatable. Interesting kind of thought I just flitted into my brain. There's like a social networking tip, if you're talking to different people and trying to figure out ways to build rapport and kind of build a connection, have someone, like identify into a conversation. The methodology that I often like to think about in my head is kind of like social Velcro, which is what are the different things that I can say in a sentence when I'm chatting with people that opens up different elements of Velcro that they can stick to, if
Mm,
if I mention something around like sports and then I see that that's kind of like hits a nerve with them in a certain way, then it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about how the Premier League and Arsenal and how I used to play pro soccer and
yeah.
different elements and like kind of bond with people around that whole element, right? But it's like finding that Velcro, and I think more experimentation often in communities could be useful for that, around finding like what is your community Velcro related to your mission that you're bringing people together for. Like what things can you make sticky that support your brand's mission, your brand's direction, and things like this. I think that's kind of a fun way to think about it as well.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. I mean, and that requires considerable effort. It does seem simple, but just having the breadth of knowledge and the exposure to, like, as you mentioned, like exposing different parts of the Velcro, uh, just having that kind of breadth in terms of the topics that you can cover with the community itself is like something it takes time to build up.
Yeah, totally. And I think also like to explore where that Velcro is or where that comes from is a good segue into the tool that I'd like to talk a bit about, of one of like the core tools that we use a lot at CoUnity to try and find out a little bit more about who our community members are, the path that they're kind of taking, um, and just like a better profile, like in a similar way of how you really look at ICP, ideal customer profile. I often look at the same thing as like, what's your ideal community profile, right? Like, who are these people? What are they doing? And so, the further ado, I'll unveil, because it's a pretty hot, like, conversation thing lately too, is with Cookie 3. So Cookie 3, they recently launched their Snaps product, which is really interesting. It's like a very similar element to Kaito. But even going back in time, like I feel like people weren't even using the full breadth of what, Cookie 3 can do. So one of the things that I really like about the product and what you can do with it is I'll actually pop open and share this demo data here. Is this element of, you install the script on your website and you start to understand your website visitors first. So it's this component of like, who's my audience, right? Like, who is at the top of the funnel from a community perspective? Maybe they're not a full active community member yet, but like, where are they coming in from? Where are they tuning in from? So I might look at like the demographics data. So if it's really high in India and visitors, but then also you notice in the US, for example, in this demo data component, there's more wallets that are connecting to the Connect Wallet feature. But what's interesting too is even in the website visitor information, you can actually see just the website visitors who have a Web3 wallet on their Chrome extension. And so I often would track that metric to see for different clients. I can't share client data here, but like certain clients, to see like how is that changing with different campaigns? How many more visitors are coming who are a little bit more Web3 native, who have like MetaMask, on their Chrome browser in a way. And then when it comes to, the on-chain analytics and going deeper on that side, you can actually see, what dApps they're using, what stable coins they hold, like which, they use, are they USDC, are they USDT? Like, how should you do rewards? What dApps do they use? Like, what, chains are the most popular for them? And you can look at that with people who are the full attribution profile from a website visitor into Connect Your Wallet, or you can look at it even as just individual token holders of similar projects and be like, okay, well, this is a project that's already done TGE. Let me look and see how their token holders are, what are they doing across different dApps or different things, and how could I look at creating a Velcro-like experience to capture them? Maybe a similar UX flow, noticing in like the dApps that they use that almost all of them are using 1inch or Uniswap or whatever. Then I'm maybe going to design my front end to have a little bit of a similar flow or user experience flow, because that's what they understand, right? So I think there's like little cool tips and things that you can pick up often across the stack of just tons of different metrics and things. I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's just one of the tools I want to first bring up. We're going to bring up a tool every single week that we use quite often, and so this one's definitely one that is quite common. So I want to bring it up. But curious on your thoughts, Kush. Like, do you use like what would you think about that element of like what I just kind of showed, or a few of the things I noted around using insights from on-chain analytics of similar projects to even just the first audience and demographic data of your website to give you the ideas around strategies and insights for the community? Anything that kind of lands or takes for you there, maybe even with Dubring in mind?
Yeah, I mean, so I think tracking is like super important, just from a perspective that, okay, uh, as much as you want to, you cannot speak to every person. And sometimes it's a lot faster just look at the data of how a person is interacting with, let's say, your website and your application, and then trying to like learn about their behaviors or like come up with these different personas and different patterns that people are following, let's say from a certain demographic, age range, just to like help you identify uh, who your actual target audience is and what kind of in what ways is your product being used. So for that it's like super important to track everything from that perspective. And yeah, because as I mentioned, you can only speak with like so many people, and there's a lot of things that the product might be used in the ways that you might not have foreseen, and a lot of the time data helps you uncover that. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm a
important.
big, we've jammed a little bit about data. I'm a big data geek, data nerd. I obviously, with my background in mechanical engineering and then my master's degree, I did a little bit of commercial construction project management. But where I really hit a bit of stride was being an operations manager at a robotics facility and designing KPI dashboards to help them increase their efficiency. And so I was constantly looking at like time for certain processes. There's thousands of SKUs in this warehouse that these robotics were picking, and like, would it make sense to move one from one location to another? Would that make like the shipping process go faster? Could we make the robots go a different way? And then like time and see if it's more efficient. And I feel like in general, I always find just like data, helps drive better decisions is like the main thing that I lead to it with. It's like you've got a little bit of ammunition around
100% agreed.
a direction on where you're going. So the more different things you can measure and different things you can tap into, the better decisions you can make. That's why we're really evolving a lot constantly on how we're getting better data and making better decisions with that. I guess throwing it back to you on the AI builder side, how do you think AI is going to change the game with that? I mean, there's obviously AI is pretty good at looking at a lot of data and presenting that to you. What's your thoughts on how things might be innovated around that space with that?
uh Man, I've been like playing around with AI a lot in the past few months, and honestly, it makes me feel even more empowered and like it's really helpful. Like just going back to the data point, when I was back in college, I did not like data analytics at all, just because I wasn't a fan of like looking at the screen and like going through all of those numbers. A lot of which I didn't know how to comprehend, and I never wanted to like put that effort in as well. But at the core of it, it's just logic, right? So now the thing is, when I work through that kind of data with AI, it's very simple for me to like implement and understand the logics and understand and identify these patterns and then take a decision on that, whereas going through the exact different numbers myself. And what was interesting was once I started doing that, I was actually more interested in looking at the actual numbers as well to like find the outliers, see what was like not aligning and why a particular number was the way it was, what was leading up to it. Then just randomly like diving into it from scratch. Because I mean, I personally just like do this like in a very logical manner. So once I understood that, okay, what's the data trying to say, what is it that I am trying to do, and then try to like correlate those numbers together, I was able to like find those discrepancies a lot faster and like try to understand those patterns a lot more easier. And I think that's where AI like really helped me with data analytics in general. But in terms of like in general productivity or building things, I mean, AI has been definitely been a game changer. I've been like shipping more things in a night than I used to like in weeks. So it's definitely been fast.
Yeah, and we're at the vibe coding space as well, where people who don't even have as much experience into building different things. I've dipped my toe in different vibe coded projects that really just ultimately were elements of automation to help with different things. But it's amazing that you can prompt and get code that then actually works and does the thing. And to your point, I've also heard of other developers just shortening their time immensely,
Yeah,
using the tools, right?
yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, and I mean, Cursor has become like super powerful as well with like MCP and stuff because
Mm,
now I use it for like a lot of different things. Like sometimes for example, a lot of repetitive work. Like I was trying to find, I was doing some domain name hunting online, and then I just decided to like not do that, and I prompted Cursor to use browser MCP to do that for me, and that was like a lot faster because now it was coming up with stuff itself, going through these navigating these websites, checking availability, giving me a list of all the available domain names and everything. So it's just like a lot more power from that perspective because I can now prompt it and like make it actually automate a lot of repetitive stuff. So that was actually like super super cool.
that's awesome. Yeah, and there's a component I think where AI does really, really well when you treat it as a little bit of like an intern. You give it a little bit of coaching, you give it, detailed prompts across the front end side of things on what you're looking for. And I think that's where it's really great to have strong frameworks on how to do different things. And so one of the other things I promised on this relaunch of this podcast is to share a tool every week, but also to share a framework on how to do something within the community space. And this framework I'm about to share is around community experience design. And from what you just said and what I was thinking a bit about, I think like I could easily, anyone could easily really, you can turn this framework into a prompt and you could put this into AI and it would help fill out the framework for you. And you could even tell it to even ask you the questions to fill it out, which I love doing. Like I generally, a lot of time when I prompt AI, I finish it with the question being, you know, feel free, please ask me 3 to 5 questions that'll help clarify this ask and give us better results here, which is great. And then it sometimes asks me certain questions where I'm like, yeah, totally. I definitely should have added that into the prompt. Like this is going to help steer you in the right direction. Some of the questions are like a bit of a miss and I'm just like, no, just quickly answer them. But it's great to kind of have that little bit of the steering direction. So without further ado, I would love to get your feedback on this framework too. I thought it was really great. It's from a book by David Spinks, Building Brand Communities, and it's the 7 P's of community experience design. So we've got people, purpose, place, participating, policy, promotion, and performance. If I wanted to, I could have probably just spat all over my screen with all those P's. But anyways, um, so I'm gonna go through them one at a time. The first one with people is like the first two they even mention are you need to have these two, right? And when you're designing some sort of community experience, you need to know who is this community experience for? In a way, like what is that, ICP, ideal community profile? Purpose, why are we gathering here? Like what is the purpose on which we are gathered here together? Then place, where are we gathering? Is this a Discord stage? Is this a Twitter space? Is this a Twitter community? Is this a bar? Is this a conference workshop venue? All of them change the vibe quite a bit. And then participating, like what will they do? What will we do together? What's the components of the time spent together? Policy, like what are the rules and guidelines of this? Like what should we set up from an element people understand? Promotion, this is like the little marketing piece of it. Like how are we going to invite people? This is also very important to think deeply because it depends, like, you curate where people come from. and then performance. Like, what will success look and feel like? I really think, and I'm actually thinking I will probably after this podcast, I do have a call coming up here, but I'll probably look at pulling this framework into a prompt, and then I'd be happy to share with everyone who's tuned in and put it out there public for people to utilize. But like, I don't know, what would you think? What do you think of this overall first question of this kind of framework? And then follow-up question, what would be your suggestions around utilizing AI to help you with designing a community experience?
So to answer the first one, I think this is like great. And I mean, uh, all of these parts are like really, really important. Like you've got, these are like simple, so measurable. And yeah, I think it's like super important. And definitely, I think, I think something to keep in mind when looking at, let's say, a framework like this is the performance part is like super important. That okay, what will success look like and feel like, and what is the purpose exactly? What is the purpose of this particular event? Like if it's like a regular hangout at a particular Discord server versus if it's, let's say, a normal hangout in like a bar or something. What do you want to get out of it? Is like just people coming in together and like forming deeper relationships, or do you actually want something else? If you're actually looking to expand your community, it's really important to add some friction because as the community grows, it's going back to the geeks, mobs, and sociopaths ideology over there. There will also always be people who like come in to like extract value out of it, and you want to like stay clear of it, and you don't want to dilute the value by making it too large too quickly. So I think it's really important, and I think this will depend a lot on what is the purpose that you are hosting this particular experience for, and based on that there needs to be like a certain barrier to entry for the people in the community versus outside of the community. There needs to be like a sense of belonging and a clear reward for people who are like in there putting their time and energy versus people who are like just in there as tourists or
Yeah,
just
like
free
closely with
free.
the closely with the promotion component, like you just say there, like how will
Yeah,
you invite people? It's like, where are
yeah.
they coming from? Are they coming from Galaxy? Are they coming from are they coming
Exactly.
from like invite only Telegram? Like, that'll change the vibe up a lot.
Yeah,
But then very closely related to your point with like, why are we actually here too? So that's a
yeah,
really good addition and good point for that for sure.
yeah. It's like how will you invite and like how will you curate?
Totally. Curation, I
Also,
think, is key, especially early in communities, because they set the tempo. When you
yeah,
figure out like your culture and then you set the in a way, they actually help the policy. Like depending on how you set the purpose and the promotion, the policy can often be set by the first members. It's like, hey man,
exactly.
like this isn't the type of behavior we condone here. Like
Yeah.
chill out with your shilling, man. Get out of here, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, just think about it, right? Let's say you're just like going for like a nice evening hangout with your friends, and let's say 7 or 8 of you, and there's like even one person who's like a spoil sport, and that really like ruins the mood of everyone. And that's exactly the same for like an early community or even in like an online setting. Uh, if a person is not able to contribute a lot of energy to the community, it's best to not have the people who like drain energy as well.
Totally. That makes a ton of sense. Cool. No, this was great. Oh, I guess the second part of the question, like, how would you think about, utilizing AI or turning this into a prompt, or how could AI help uh, with this framework?
So I think I mean, I wouldn't. So I think I'm like a bit more old fashioned from that perspective where I do not like to like do. So I like to use AI for like a lot of my brainstorming things and a lot of like probing things. So if I were to host a community experience, uh, my prompt to AI will be more around, just ask me questions, as you mentioned, just ask me questions on everything that I'm not considering. And then based on, the questions, I think on that, I give my answers. And then if let's say there's something that I need to go deeper into, then I'm like, tell it, I instruct the AI to ask me probing questions around it. So I'm like thinking a lot more deeply on that and trying to just identifying all these gaps. So I probably wouldn't ask AI to like completely convert this particular framework into a prompt or something, just because I feel, especially at an early stage, I feel it's like a lot more personal for me, and it's like just about uh, actuating, my preferences and the kind of like space I want to create, versus just do things which sound good, but maybe my heart is not into them. So I think it's like a lot. It's a bit different when it comes to that for me.
Fair enough. That makes sense. Yeah, because you're also more of like you like build this stuff versus a lot of the elements of like all on the front end side of things. You're like on the
Yeah.
back end pulling the APIs together and doing things that I like kind of wish that I could do in some sort of sense. But like cool, man. Well, moving to this next section here.
Yeah.
We have got a little bit of rapid fire. We've got a couple different questions lined up here. Just say first thing that comes off the top of your mind, whatever kind of comes to mind with it, and yeah, let's just track through a few of these. What would you say? Da, 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 da. One book or blog post that you'd recommend?
Sapiens.
What's that?
Sapiens.
Sapiens. Nice, nice, nice.
Sapiens. Thinking Fast and Slow was also like a really good one. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. What's the most cringy thing right now in the world of Web3 community?
Cringy. I don't know, man. I've been like, honestly, I've been trying to silence all of the Web3 community noise on my Twitter right now.
You're getting locked in. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
man. Like, bro, this is my room right now. It's like, it's
Let's
literally like
go.
my dumbbells, my desk, and like yoga mat, and I'm like in my room all day these days.
That's unreal. I love that. Amazing. You just like, you set a timer, you work for 30, 40 minutes, timer goes off, you smash a few reps out, you come back and you lock back in again.
Yeah, it's like, and when you're coding with cursor, it's like the cursor thing takes like a minute or two to like do the prompt. So it's like that's good enough time to like get a rep in.
That's amazing. I love that. That's epic. All right. Well, next time we see each other, you're going to be pretty ripped.
I hope so. I hope so.
Sweet. If your brand for Dubring was a community vibe, what would it be?
I think it would be something around trust,
Mm.
because I feel I feel like the problem with AI applications right now is like, again, as you mentioned, it's like very application first versus user first, and I feel that the way we're thinking about this is we're trying to like recreate like a more efficient human on the internet versus actually using AI the way it should be, or let's say like create new experiences out of it. And I feel that it won't be possible if, let's say, we play within the same constraints that we have played in, uh, as so far while developing software. That's why if you use Dubring, we actually ask you for your two-way password of your Telegram, to like log in and actually like give the agent equal access to your Telegram, which is, I mean, yeah, it does sound a bit different, but that is the experience that we're trying to create, like actually really personal to you. And I feel, from that perspective, like us being really honest with the users and the community about everything that we do internally, and then just fostering that trust between us, and also like make it verifiable from wherever we can, to actually like make sure that the users actually like are comfortable enough in sharing that information with the agent, and then the agent will be like more empowered to like create those experiences for you. And that's kind of where our thesis comes into it, and that's why trust is, I think, a really important one for us.
That's a really good answer because I think a lot of AI projects and stuff would probably say like efficiency or like, whatever, but like AI takes a ton of trust to utilize to the degree
Yeah.
that it can help you, right? And I know a lot of people with Telegram, like connecting to something and allowing it to help access your Telegram chats is a big trust component. So if you
Yeah.
build a community of that trust and they understand, like, people vet for it. When someone refers me something from a community advocacy perspective, my trust is so much higher, right?
Yeah.
Like there's certain programs and things that I'm in right now that you can only get into from like a referral,
Yeah.
and the inherent value of it then is also higher. But I have a lot more trust for that program when I have that element of other people in that community have the trust. So that's a really great answer. I love that. All right, last one. And this one's gonna be super generic, so you can like scour your whole brain to see what just pops up and surfaces. But what would be, with all your experience in the AI world and building things, what is a general tip that you feel in how to utilize AI that is kind of slept on? Like, what would be a recommendation? What would you leave the audience here with on something from your experience that's been very valuable that not many people are tapping into?
Interesting. I think now with AI, I'm actually like rediscovering my love for like building things just because it's like so much faster to like ship things. And now whenever I am facing a problem, my first response is I can just build out a solution for that myself. And through that process, like just building a particular product in a direction, uh, uncovering all these different problems as I'm facing along the way, and then building a product for them is actually leading to more products that I can like build out with the particular product that I'm building. Uh, so it's like an idea is leading to different ideas. So I think generic advice is just go ahead and like ship, because once you get into it, you will actually understand, what's working, what's not working. I think purely from an AI usage perspective, I think thinking in systems has like helped me a lot, because I tried to wipe code and it didn't work out because I understand what AI is trying to do and I didn't like it. If I asked it to create an application, I was creating it in a particular manner. I just knew where it would like not work out. So for me now, the usual process while developing something is I spend more time on like ideation and like system design kind of thing, and actually just brainstorming with AI on what the system should look like, what are the different vulnerabilities, the gaps that I'm like missing out, creating a exhaustive plan like beforehand, and then implementing it like in a very step by step manner instead of like just vibe coding it and like prompting it all. So it's like now my time has actually shifted a lot more into ideation and like planning rather than actual implementation, because actual implementation is being taken care of by Cursor itself. And especially with like Claude 4, which just like came out a few days back, uh, it's actually like a lot more efficient. So I think vibe code is good. It's actually empowering a lot of people who did not have like a platform to start from when it comes to like technical process. It's just that I feel that vibe coding in itself is not a sustainable way of building scalable solutions. And that's where I feel if you're like vibe coding, just try to understand what the AI is doing as well, so you can actually like go ahead and like brainstorm with some other AI that, okay, this is what's going on, how do I make this more scalable, how do I make it more secure, and then just ask probing questions that, okay, why is this important, why is that important, why do I
Mm,
need this, why do I do that, is like why is it working the way it is working. Just feed into your curiosity, and I feel you'll land somewhere. Feeding
that's
into the
nice.
curiosity is like, it's been a massive game changer.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like the tip is take a little bit of a breather and utilize AI in stages potentially, and as well
Yeah.
as use your own brain for creativity and what kind of comes
Yeah.
up, and
Yeah.
help build up more maybe of a PRD or like of an outline for something with it, and really question every component of it then move into like the shipping mode. And it's interesting. I think like around when you mentioned the shipping element, like it popped into my mind where we spent a good bit of time together across multiple places.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Eigenlayer fam with Megazoo, and like the
Yep.
ethos of shipping there was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it was like that was like the thing. It was like if even
Absolutely.
the bot around the shipping, and like everyone was doing shipping, and it was like ship, and every week there was review and feedback, and there was a huge ethos of shipping there. And I feel like that catalyzed a lot of builders into that mindset. And when you mentioned this now, it just took me back to Chiang Mai and all the shipping that went on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Megazoo was like something else. It was really, really crazy.
Yeah. Well, sweet, man. Well, that I think that about rounds us up here. Really, really appreciate you coming on. One thing I wanted to mention, we're going to be doing these weekly, as long as I'm not bouncing around traveling too much on the conference side of things. But the goal is to have one of these every week. Different guests come on. I've got quite a few awesome guests that we're going to bring on as well. This has been an amazing conversation. In addition to this little podcast where we chat on these things, share these resources, we're going to be doing some Twitter spaces, and they're going to be like community office hours. So anyone who's got any sort of questions around, they've got a community, they've got a problem, they've got a Discord, they got a Telegram, they've got a campaign, they got a Twitter thing that they're curious on how they can activate their community, they got a data question. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be answering as many questions and just helping and providing as much value as I can. And the idea is also, if you have any, after listening to this, or if you're tuned in live right now, you've got any questions, come over to the Twitter. We'll have these Twitter spaces kind of going up, and you can just hop on and ask your question, whether it was, hey, I was curious what Kush said about blah, 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 or, what Dan, you were saying about this, and happy to provide an answer. That's like the kind of element that we're going to be doing with this. So excited for that. But without further ado, is there anything you want to leave everyone with, Kush, as we wrap up here?
I think it's like a really exciting time. I mean, information is like more accessible than it has ever been, and I think it just comes down to agency now. So if, let's say, you're someone who's like trying to build something or do something and have been procrastinating, uh, you don't really have any more excuses anymore. So just take some time and like just do it, guys.
Love that. And also, I've got here little banner going across the bottom. This is where you can find Kush on Twitter. Definitely give him a follow, and that way you can kind of stay up to date with Dubring as it kind of comes up with further announcements and different things. And then as for myself, there's my Twitter. I'm going to be trying to be a lot more of a yapper out there on Twitter, and sharing more community value, building up this component of what we're doing here. So appreciate you coming on. Love the free-flowing way that this felt, and very natural, and lots of awesome little tidbits in here for everyone. So appreciate everyone who's tuned in live here, and we'll catch you soon. All right.
Amazing. See you, man.
See you
Thanks.
later.